Garden Express are Australia's leading mail ordering service, offering a wide range of quality gardening products. Each week on the Garden Gurus Live, the team at Garden Express will share a weekly offer. So make sure after today's show, you jump online and visit their website.
All right, good morning, hello, welcome to the Garden Gurus Live. I'm Trevor with the dynamic duo of Shay and Way driving our program today, and Way's actually in the control booth, so we'll see how things go. He's looking a little nervous, but I think he's going to be okay. We'll get him through it. How are you going? How are you getting through this incredible weather we're all experiencing at the moment? You know, in some places of the country, we've been getting lots of rain. In other parts, record heat waves. Right here in Perth yesterday, 40 degrees. My heart goes out to a whole bunch of people north of Perth who were unfortunately involved in a terrible bushfire. And it's a bit of a sign of things to come. I think there's been at least 10 houses lost, which is just tragic. But it's also tragic for those of us who love our gardens and are watching things dry out. Yesterday in my glass house, I had a whole bunch of cooked lettuce when I got home last night. Not the ideal scenario. They had just run out of water, and in those extremes, unfortunately, had shriveled. So a bit of a challenge. The second thing that is probably going to go on at the moment, as soon as you do that, is you're going to see plants like hydrangeas, etc. Their flowers will lose their colour. Your favourite kangaroo paws will suddenly look like the flowers themselves have dried out. The plant should be fine, but this is just the intense heat and light that we're getting that causes these kinds of problems this time of the year. And of course, the biggest trick is going to be moisture. The last two sessions, I should say, of the Garden Gurus Live, it's been an extensive discussion for all of us, and it's really quite a challenge now. So there are certainly tips and tricks and hints I can share with you, and I look forward to doing that this morning. Of course, we're all about answering your garden questions with this particular program. And I should say, don't forget that the best question for the day, as judged by Shay Lee this morning, will win a $50 gift voucher to Garden Express. Your chance to go shopping online 24/7 from the comfort of your armchair and have all your goodies delivered direct to your doorstep. It is a fantastic way to shop. And today we've got a really cool special offer. In fact, it rolls on from last week because we don't have Rowan joining us this week. And I know that Dave's out on the farm. I think Chloe's still in holiday mode. I could be wrong, but the team at Garden Express are not joining us this morning, but they have continued that special offer that we put together last week for you. And that is gift vouchers, because gift vouchers are so popular this time of the year. And the great thing about buying one of these online for somebody you love is you can deliver them direct to their mailbox wherever they are in, I suppose, the world really, but certainly in Australia. And this special deal is pretty cool. So spend $50 and you'll get a $60 gift voucher. If you spend $100, you'll get $120. Spend $150, $180, or $200, you'll get $240 worth of value. So it might be just worthwhile getting yourself a nice gift already because it's such a good deal. Fancy that. You're going to get yourself a really good deal. Now, I think what we'll do is we'll just give you the deal, I think, as per Bonnie's view. So let's have a look at this.
Are you tired of guessing what gift to give on a special occasion? Well, we have the perfect solution for you, and our good friends at Garden Express have the ultimate gift for your garden-loving colleagues, friends, and even a family member with their range of gift vouchers. With a broad range of different vouchers to choose from, you can find the perfect amount to suit your budget. Score a $60 voucher for just $50, or splash out a bit more with a $240 voucher for just $200. With a large online catalogue of plants ranging from bulbs, roses, edibles, perennials, trees, and more, there is bound to be the perfect gift just waiting to be discovered. Go ahead and take the guesswork out of gift giving by making every occasion bloom. It's as simple as 1, 2, 3, and just provide the recipient's details and your special message, and that will go directly to their inbox where they can redeem their voucher, or you can print it off for a personal touch. For more information, head on over to Garden Express.
Thanks very much, Bonnie. That's a great deal, isn't it? It's a really good way to actually, I suppose, send somebody something that will allow them to buy something they really want. But most importantly, once they've got it, they'll always remember that it came from you. Those Garden Express gift vouchers are absolutely sensational. Now, you remember, you jump online to gardenexpress.com.au. You can jump on the page. You'll see it on the landing page, actually. Click on the link and then fill out the details, and it's all yours. And whilst you're there, just check out all the goodies they've got. They've got a lot of very, very cool plants there. Now, did you see, I'm not going to go into it straight away, but I will show you this and tell me what you think. Do you know what they are? It's a little bit different. They're kind of very cherry-like, but they're black, and they've got a bit of a different bottom to them. I tell you what, I think the person who can answer exactly what they are is the one that should win the gift voucher. That's just what I think. Shailene may agree or may not agree, but let's see how we go. Now, we have lots of questions coming through. Remember, if you have something sort of needs describing me to look at it, send us a picture. I might just throw a little curveball at Wayne and just ask us before we get into answering your questions, how to post a picture. We've got a great little video. Let's see whether he can press the button and make it happen. Have you got a gardening question you'd like us to answer and you need to send us a photo? Well, simply head to our Facebook page and click on message. Type out your question and click the camera icon to take a photo in the app. Or click the image option and select the image you want to send us. Be sure to allow Facebook access to your camera and camera roll. We check our messages regularly, so sit back and be sure to tune in to the Garden Gurus Facebook Live show every Friday, and you'll hear your answer. Well, you're all putting in comments at the moment about what was that I just showed you before. It is not water chestnut shallot, but nice guess. Big hello, Pomme, Kang, Monica, Chrissy, Kathy, Kerry, all of you. It is absolutely fantastic. I think Fiona Hadley said, I didn't get to see them, so here we go again. That's what the fruit looks like. Can you tell me what it is? It's a bit different, isn't it? I'm trying to get as close up as I can for you to have a look against that camera. And this is what it comes on a beautiful evergreen shrub like that. And you can see all of the fruit sitting in there. And Christine Rankin, you're sort of right. You're 50% there. Christine said cherries. Annie Michelada said choke cherry. No, sorry. Not right yet, guys. Only somebody who's growing this, I think, will know. And they're just in flower now. Interestingly enough, my cherries we've just harvested them. So this has just come through. And I'll give you a little bit of a tip. It is exotic, and it does have in its name cherries. And we have a winner. Yen, you have got it right. It is Gruma Charmer. I'll tell you all about it a bit later on. Fiona, no, not black cherry guava, but great guess. Everybody, thank you for participating in that. How about I fly into answering some of your questions first, and then I'll talk to you about this plant. Kay Boyd, you're in Elizabeth Downs in South Australia. You sent us some photographs. I've got an awful lot of trouble growing my lily-pilly hedge. I have a Dawson River creeper, Asia verge tree adjacent to, we talked about this last week. Yeah, and you've tried to improve the soil, tried wetting agents. Is it the callistemon? My answer is yes, it's highly likely. It's the callistemon affecting the roots of the hedge. They're just a bit too close. Callistemons do have a pretty vigorous root system, and they will latch onto other roots around the outside of them. It's just holding its space. What do you got to do? You got to reduce the size of the callistemon is my suggestion, and that'll allow more light in, and your head should thicken up as far as the lily pillies go. Jeannie from Beachborough in WA. Hello, my everlastings have dried. I'm able to just dig them into the soil, but will they shoot up again next year? Jeannie, don't dig them into the soil. Run the line trimmer over them, and then get the hose and water the foliage that you've cut off down and let it stick to the top of the soil. The seeds are sitting in the flower heads. The only other thing you can do, this is what we do, by the way, is we line trim it. We get the blower vacuum, use the vac part of it, sucks it up into a bag. We take the bag, put it into a dry container and sit it in a dark spot in the shed until May. Then we take it and we spread it out over the garden beds, do exactly what I just said before, and that's water it in so it sticks to the surface, and then they'll start germinating pretty much straight away at that point there. Okay, we've got questions coming in from all over the country. I'm going to stay in WA just for one more moment. It has been a very, very challenging time here, and growing things from cutting and seed is a big challenge. Kerry McClure from Roleystone, want to strike some cuttings from hibiscus and gardenia plants. When is the best time to do this? It would have been about a month ago. Going into this really hot weather, unless you've got a very good propagation system, it's going to be very, very challenging. There is one called the Aquamizer, and in the last couple of weeks, I've been growing some cuttings. Tomorrow I'm hosting a bit of a garden tour through my garden. I don't often do it, and I thought I'll grow my guests some plants, and I've used the Aquamizer to do that, and already they've dropped roots and have taken off. Hibiscus, typically we would be taking the hibiscus cuttings in August. Gardenias, definitely a little bit warmer, or in the autumn, so sort of that April, May, when humidity's back up, when we can maintain consistent moisture levels, and you can grow them in a contained environment. So one of those little mini glass houses is a great idea, or greenhouses. It's a good idea, Kerry. But right now will be pretty difficult unless you can control the environment perfectly. Renee Boyle, hello, you're in Melbourne. You sent us some photographs of some advice for my magnolia. Recently moved to a new house. It's a little gem in the front yard. It's currently flowering, but there's some dieback in the larger limbs and quite a few white spots on most of the branches and trunks. I think it faces north to east. I've given it a good hit with sea soil, trying to put on some new growth. Now, if you have a look at it, it doesn't look so bad to me. I'm not really sure where the dead limbs are in those photographs. And I can't see the one on one side of the page actually, Way. So it's very difficult for me at the moment to be able to have a look at that other photograph. But I will have a look as soon as Wayne moves the answers across to one side for me. Okay, let's have a look here. I still can't quite see what's going on there. Look, to me, it doesn't look so bad. It actually looks like it might just need some pruning. I'm going to tell you that. Then I'm going to tell you I've actually had a significant problem with one of my magnolias where the same things occurred. I can see those white spots now, and they are very unusual. They do look like a scale to me, so scale could be affecting it. And the best treatment for that is really to apply something like a white oil or a horticultural oil, eco oil, one of those, pest oil, over those trunks and branches, and I suspect you're going to find it's probably even under the leaves. What I would recommend you do is give it a spray, but do not do it, please, during weather which is over 28 to 30 degrees. So pick some cooler days, then hit it hard. The dead areas in the tree, I would be removing them. I'd cut them back. Don't be scared to prune these evergreen magnolias. They love it. They love it. Okay, let's keep rolling along. Glenn Miller is a good friend of ours up in the Gold Coast. G'day, Glenn. You sent us some photographs. I'm confused as to what I have here. Can you tell me if any of these are ginger or turmeric? Let's have a look at Glenn's photographs. Okay, Wayne's going to put that up for me. Okay, there you've got ornamental gingers there. You've got all ornamental gingers, alpinias sitting in there, and they all look good. Maybe not all alpinias, but nevertheless, I don't think any of them, maybe the bottom right-hand corner, you might have turmeric there. It's a little hard to tell from the photograph. Of course, the the great giveaway is to dig some up, dig a small patch up, but all the rest of them are ornamental gingers. Sometimes they are sold at where you can dig them and take the root and get a bit of a gingery flavour, but it's not quite what we would suggest is edible. It will have a bit of flavour, but mainly it'll be fibre and texture. Don't want to undersell that. But anyway, mate, look, beautiful plants. Great garden, by the way. Looks fantastic. The ones down the bottom right-hand corner could be turmeric. Looks to me like it's a little water stressed is what I can see. I can see it rolling its leaves, which is a classic sign of a little bit on the dry side. So maybe just keep the water up there. Hopefully that helps. Grace McCallum, you are in Perth. 2 years ago, I moved to my new home. So I went to Bunnings to buy some plants called Polygala Little Charmers. But unfortunately, I can't find them anywhere. Tried for the last year, but nothing in Perth. You know, Little Charmer is one that I have not seen in too many garden centres. I've been up and down the East Coast recently and in garden centres, certainly haven't seen it in any of those either. There are a lot of different types of polygalas, and if Little Charmer hasn't been performing super well, often growers will give it a run for a couple of seasons, and if it doesn't do too well, they'll bring in some of the new ones, and there's a lot of breeding going on in that space. So maybe we will see some things in the next week or so, because the end of next week I'm in Sydney. The beginning of the following week I'm filming the Australian Plant Trials, which is sponsored by the Garden Gurus. It's an industry thing in Victoria where all the latest and greatest breeding is put on display for all the retailers to see. Jeannie Napier, I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Jeannie, you've sent me some photographs. I received my Boophony. Let's have a look and see what we've got. And here's a photo. I don't know what to think. I thought I was going to get one with foliage, but it's just the bare bulb. Be interesting to see how it goes. That's the best way to receive them. So don't worry, Jeannie. Get it into some soil, and when it's ready to go, it will take off and you will see some good growth. The trick with it is to keep the bulb right on the surface of the soil with this one. You don't bury it deep. I'm sure you've got the instructions in there. I can see them. I'm sure you follow that. Put it in a pot is my advice, and you will get that crazy, beautiful plant that comes through. Boophony, it's very different. Amanda Adnam, hello. I'm not sure where you're from. Amanda doesn't quite say here, but just remember to keep letting me know where you're from. Kim Britton and Charlene Jones both have. Amanda, your question is, what causes crepe myrtle flowers to turn dry and brown only a few weeks after finally blooming? What causes crepe myrtle coral magic to struggle to grow? So the thing about crepe myrtles is they're an incredibly hardy plant. They do sort of handle most conditions pretty well. There's two things they don't like. One is thrips, which get into the flowers and cause the flowers to basically lose all their colour, the intensity of the colour, and ultimately dry out. So that's the first thing, which I suspect is what's going on with your flowers. The second thing is that they do suffer from a little bit of powdery mildew. And I got a funny feeling that coral magic does get a little bit more than most. Water is important with them as they're establishing. The goal is, as they're a younger plant, is to get the biggest possible root system as you can, because these guys they're quite a hard sort of trunked sort of plant. They do love sort of regular watering and fertilizing during the growing season, but definitely don't go giving them too much of that during the wet season. Otherwise they'll develop rots and may not grow back. It does count as one of my favorite water-wise plants, because they can pretty much go through summer with only a solid hand water once a week or so and do quite well. Barb Patullo, hello, you're in Redcliffs in Victoria. How are you doing? Thanks for joining us. Your question's a good one. Can you tell me how to get rid of wilt out of the soil that's affecting my tomatoes? Okay, Barb, the big trick is do not plant those tomatoes in the same spot year in, year out. That's what you're seeing, is you're seeing that residual disease build up in the soil, and what it will do is it will cause tomatoes to wilt and they will not produce fruit. So this is why we talk about crop rotation, different spots in the garden, maybe 2 years before you even think about going back to the same spot again. And even if you don't have the room, grow them in pots. That's what I do every once in a while. About every 2 or 3 years, I'll just grow them in pots and won't even bother growing them in the garden bed. Kim Britton, you're in Cranbourne in Victoria. You've sent us some photos again. Let's have a bit of a look. We've still got the old photos up, so let's have a look here. Okay. Okay, I think we're on the wrong photo here, mate. We've got Amanda Adnam. Oh, no, sorry, here we go. This is your parsley plant, Amanda, and seed. The tall bit's actually a whole bunch of seeds going to come through. Now, you can leave that, but what's going to happen is the plant will pretty much finish its life. It looks to me like if you were to cut that flower head off, add some fertilizer and possibly just top the soil up in the pot. It looks like it's got a little bit of compaction going on there, what we call slumping. And if you topped up the soil in there, you added some controlled release fertilizer, maybe even a bit of a dose of liquid fertilizer, you should get a good growth of foliage, which is what you want. You don't want it to go to flower. So not unusual in warmer weather, and certainly not unusual as soil dries out, to see exactly what you've got going on here. And the same thing will be going on with things like coriander, for those of you out there that have got coriander. Hopefully that helps. Kim. Lynn Menendu Ryan, I hope I got it right. Hello, you're in the Gold Coast. Should a potted jade plant need fertilizer at all? Look, all plants need fertilizer, Lynn, but just a controlled release plant food is the go for these guys. That'll do the job really well. But yeah, just a shot of Treforte or Osmocote, and just the all round, because this is a foliage plant. So it's just going to use mainly that nitrogen base in there, and everything else that can be in smaller volumes. Jez Barnes, you're in South Hobart in Tassie. Hello. Want to know how much water you give kangaroo paws? I'm seeing some black mold like on them. Okay, that's a sign that you're giving them too much water. So when you say black, it's probably some rot. Now, they don't like a lot of moisture around the base. That can cause collar rot, and it can also cause root damage, which is reflected with black specks or spots on the actual foliage. And generally that would be just about the end of the plant. So let them dry out a lot more. If you're watering twice a week, bring it back to once a week. If you're watering 3 or 4 times a week, bring it back to once a week. These guys, they're designed to grow in dry conditions. And yes, we'll answer some more questions on kangaroo paws because they're coming through. Charlene Jones from Jurien Bay. I reckon, Charlene, you are the first person to have written in from Jurien Bay. Now, I watched a program and you're painting an insecticide for fruit fly on apricots, etc., as well as utilising a trap. I've tried searching through your episodes, but I can't find the information. Do you know what it is? Probably, Charlene, if you're seeing fruit fly stings on your fruit already, it's problematic because the fruit fly will have stung it and the bugs will, the grubs will be inside already. However, you can jump on our webpage, and I'll just get the guys just to double check that I've got this right. Put into the search engine fruit fly traps or baits, and I'm sure the multiple stories that we've done over the years will pop up along with the recipes. And that's the other thing. So maybe fruit fly traps, baits, or recipes, pop them in, it will come up, because it is a regular question we get asked. Just so you know, that was a Yates fruit fly bait that we got. You can mix that and just paint it onto the tree, or alternatively, you can use it in actual containers, with a little bit of maybe Vegemite to bring in more and more fruit fly, and they'll fly past that fruit and land in there. The other thing, sticky traps are also an effective way of taking them out as well. I'm still battling with fruit fly garden. I've definitely got a bit of fruit that's been impacted by fruit fly in my apricots. Not all of them, but it's disappointing when you lose any of them, isn't it? Annie Michelades, you're in Perth. In fact, we've got a few from Perth today, which is great. You are all joining us. Let's have a look. You mentioned leafhopper grasshoppers last week and the damage they cause. I've seen 4 on one branch of my queen umbrella tree. It's very sick, missing leaves and branches. What's the next best thing to eradicate these pests? David Gray's cricket and grasshopper baits is the way to go, Annie. Follow the instructions, but it's the most effective treatment. The next stop to that is something like Carbaryl, which you can buy as a liquid. Ryder Riddell, hello, you're in Southern River in WA. Hi, Ryder. Last time you recommended Bravo apples for reducing cancer. I've been eating them more often since then. Is there another fruit or vegetables underrated health benefits? Now, look, don't go thinking that anything that you have is going to get rid of cancer or reduce the risk necessarily. What our Bravo apples do, and dark red apples, is this amazing body of research that came out of the Royal Perth Hospital's research division about red apples and green apples. And I always joke that one of the biggest killers of women are diseases related to hypertension. And hypertension is not always caused by husbands. It's sometimes caused by things within our diet and the environment that we're in. What they did find is those dark red apples reduce your risk of those kinds of diseases and afflictions, heart attacks, stroke, any of those things, high blood pressure, by having a red apple in your diet every day. So start them every morning. As far as other things go, blood sugar is a really big problem for a lot of us. Using stevia is a fantastic solution for that. So stevia is 30 times sweeter than sugar, but it's got no calories in it. And then the other one that you might want to think about that's very, very important in our diets, particularly for women and for men, is the crucifer family. So brassicas, broccoli, cauliflower, kale, they're all incredibly good for gut health. And so we know that a lot of those stomach cancers and diseases are really problematic. And they know that when you have particularly kale in your diet in larger volumes, I think it's about 50 to 60 grams a day, which is a little bit more than probably a handful, it reduces the risk of those kinds of cancers quite dramatically. So, and of course, kale is one of the highest sources of antioxidants. So really good to have in your diet. Hopefully that helps you from a health point of view. Jane Beebe, you are in Melbourne. Hello. I have 2 silver lady ferns. Look okay. Sorry, I think one looks okay, and the other forms on the edges have gone brown. Okay. I've been watering and sea sold it, I think. What's causing the problem? Look, typically, when you're seeing browning on any sort of foliage of plants, you are generally seeing particularly the outside edge, the impact of drying roots. So the roots, if they're stressed in any way, that could be causing the problem. What I would suggest you do is just make sure that the second one, the one that's not super happy, is actually getting the same amount of water as the first one. And what I mean is, if you've got one planted here and one planted here, and the sprinkler that's watering them is on this side, this one's going to be very happy. This one's going to get less water than that one. So make sure they're getting even amounts of water. The second thing that I would say to that is sea salt is really good, but maybe a wetting agent might be more important just at the moment to make sure that there are no dry pockets in the soil of the second one, and as such causing root damage. And a liquid wetting agent drenched over it, you should see bubbling if the soil's got some dry pockets as soon as you apply it. So let's do a test, see what you've got. And that sea salt wetting agent, or sea salt soil wetter, super soil wetter I think it's called, is absolutely brilliant. It's what I use in my garden, and it certainly does help. Hayley McKinnon, you're in Victoria. Hello, what's the best soil to plant tomatoes in? Depends, Hayley. If you're growing them in pots, I would suggest to you that you definitely want to get your hands on the Osmocote. I use Osmocote Blue. That is absolutely brilliant, that potting mix. It's professional blend. It's got all the goodies in it. It's root stimulants. It's got everything going on. And it's really important with tomatoes. Interestingly enough, I did a talk this week on a couple of days for HBF, for a huge crowd actually, a couple of thousand people. And afterwards, there was a couple of people talking to me about tomatoes, and they were saying, oh yeah, but we've grown them year in, year out, done pretty well. But this year we're getting like rotted on the bottom of the tomatoes, are big rotted spots. And that is caused by a lack of calcium. And it's an indication that you need to be boosting your soil's mineral content up quite a lot. So a high mineral content fertilizer like, I suppose Troforte is a really good example of one that's got 60 micro and macro nutrients in it. But at the same time, boosting it with a bit of dolomite, or calcium in the form of lime, or if you're on the edge of the beach and you're planting into the soil, then use gypsum. All very high sources of calcium, and that'll stop that particular disease. Okay, Claire Jenkins, you're in Caversham. Let's have a look here. I'm watering on my days, running my stations longer, applied sea salt soil weather prior to this weather. Is there anything else I should do to help my plants cope? I have couch grass and the garden beds of frangipanis, mariah and petunias. Now, we just talked about sea salt before. Sea salt is very much a soil tonic and is very much a plant health tonic. And it's really interesting, really interesting actually, to be quite honest, to see how it helps plants get through stressful situations, including turf. So get out, maybe go and get one of those, the Bunnings have those double 2 litre hose on deals. Get one of those, crack it open, put 2 litres over the lawn, over the garden plants, over their foliage. And let's see how that goes, because I'm sure that will help the plants cope with these extreme conditions. We had a 40-degree day yesterday, and I can tell you there were plants in my garden stressed out of their brain. But there were a lot that actually got through it very, very well. And I'm sure that that's got to do with the fact that we do apply sea salt into my garden beds this time of the year to make sure the plants are handling stress. All right, Groomer Charmer, what a name. Wouldn't you just call it the Brazilian cherry? That's exactly what it looks like. And my cherries have just finished. That's my classic European cherries, but this is just coming into its own, and it's really a very interesting plant. Now, you will not find this in your local fruit and veg store or on the shelves of supermarkets. And the reason is it doesn't have a long holding period. It needs to be grown and eaten fresh. It's interesting. We did a taste test this morning and we had 2 very distinct reactions. One went, that's a bit different. And the other one, Shay, who is extremely polite most of the time, went, ew. Now, I don't feel that way at all. I love these. They're delicious, but you have to pick them right. They do have big pips in them. In this case, 3. And the skin, I think the flesh, it's definitely not a cherry-like flesh. It's more like a lychee-like flesh, I would say. But very juicy, sweet. The skin can be tart, comes from the same family of plants as the lily pillies, okay? So hence, if you have a look at the base of that, you can see the old flower sepals sitting on the very bottom there. And that's a great indicator they come from the same family. But it's a really lovely, I think a lovely dark green shrub, very robust in warm conditions, handles cold conditions quite well, but right now it's producing fruit by literally the hundreds and hundreds. So harvesting like crazy is not a bad idea. I don't know if there's any recipes on how you can preserve them. For me, it's best eaten fresh, but yeah, it's called Groomer Charmer or the Brazilian cherry. It's Eugenia brasiliensis, and it's a lovely full sun shrub, grows really well in free draining soils, handles cold conditions as well as very, very hot conditions, and rewards you at the end of every spring with an amazing crop of cherries, usually the week after cherries in my garden anyway are ready. So we just have this abundance of cherries, both black and of course traditional cherries, being the red cherries, all arriving pretty much at the same time, which is kind of cool. I like it. Now, by the way, I should say it's got no pests. Really, nothing really attacks it. It's very, very hardy. Okay, your questions are flying in. We are on fire now in Melbourne and in New South Wales. Everybody is tuning in suddenly. All right, Hemant in Victoria, you sent us some photos. This is my mango tree in a pot. The leaves are getting brown. I water it regularly and fertilize it in early spring. Let's have a look at this photograph. Where is it? There it is. Okay. Do you know what? That looks to me like it's just a little bit cold. It's been a bit too cold. It will grow out of that. You can take those old leaves off, pull them away. I would be feeding it right now. I would keep the water up to it and it will keep growing. And if it's a dwarf variety, it could probably produce quite reasonable crops 10, 12 fruit in a pot that big. Pretty cool. That's not too bad, Hemnan. I would think, Hemnan, if you give it the feed, if you give it a little bit of love now, put it in a really nice, bright, warm position, keep the water up to it, it'll double its size in the next 12 months. This is obviously a young tree. Yen, hello, you are in Melbourne. Let's have a bit of a look here. Been tapping my corn stalks every couple of days to let the powder fluff everywhere. Of course you are. You're trying to get pollination. Amazing thing about corn is, sure, you can get some pollination from bees and you can get some pollination from flies, but most of it's just wind pollination. And the way the corn grows is it produces male flower, and the pollen from that falls down on the females. So Yen's going around tapping it to make sure we're getting lots and lots of pollen falling down on the females, and it's not getting blown away, because what would be what we would normally call wind pollinated. So this is very, very clever. How do I know when it's actually done and can be picked? So she's seeing the corn now start to form, and you'll see the silks come out at the top of the corn when the corn is getting to the mature stage. Now, as soon as you see the silk, don't go picking that corn off, because it won't be fully ripened. The kernels will not be fully ripened, but as soon as it starts to brown, you know the corn's coming through ready to go. So wait for the corn to develop the full cob. It's obviously wrapped. Around the top, you'll see this silk come out of the top, and once that silk starts to brown off, your corn's ready to pick. Hopefully that helps. Amanda Adnam, hello, Hunter Valley. When is it safe to spray on crepe myrtles if it has thrip? Good point. Sorry, I should have mentioned that before, Amanda. Cooler conditions. This is a simple answer to that. And what you need to do is you need to spray as soon as you've got a cool condition. Then 7 days later, spray it again, and then 7 days later, spray it again, and you'll break the breeding cycle of those thrips. And it's really important. And ideally, use 2 different types of insecticides to do that. And you want to make sure you get the right one. So ask your garden centre when you go in for a systemic insecticide to help control thrip. Thrip is the bane of my life. I live in a place where it's very windy and dry. Thrips love those conditions. The first thing they do is go and spoil all the flowers on your roses and other flowering plants, which you do not want. So getting control of them early in the season, really good way to go. Albert is from East Cannington, back over here in the west. Hello, Albert. Can you identify what pests are attacking my nectarine? Some fruit have the flesh of the fruit eaten. Some have tiny spiraling translucent substances. Bad news, Albert. We do have some photographs here, I think, coming up, and there we go. Now, that spiraling thing is bad news, because that is sap coming out, because inside that fruit are grubs. The fruit fly has got to your trees, and I can see you've got the yellow fly bait in the back as well, which is so frustrating. There is a couple of spray-ons, so there's either the spray-on bait, which you can paint onto the stems or in and around. May not be too late for some of the fruit. The second thing is that there are some spray-on treatments as well, one from Yates, straight off the top of my head. Albert, that is disappointing. As far as fruit being eaten, if it's actually got chunks taken out of it, you've got parrots, like I've got parrots, and they love doing that. They'll take a couple of big bites. Sometimes they'll throw the fruit on the ground. Sometimes they'll leave them in the tree, and the fruit will still continue to ripen where it wasn't eaten. Still no good for you, unfortunately. 2 different types of pests, Albert. I hope that maybe a bit of netting to protect the trees might be worth doing. And as far as that fruit fly goes, you need to act fast. Now, the bad news is you don't want to be spraying any of these things. You can do the baits, but definitely do not spray fruit fly sprays over the fruit during temperatures like we're getting currently, because it will cause some burning, and that's not good. All right, Joe Garrett. Hello, Joe. Joe in Garrett, Canberra. I'm not 100% sure. Hello, Joe. You're definitely in Canberra. We know that much. How do I revive a Camellia Yuletide? The leaves are falling off and there's a few dead branches. We've taken it out of the ground and put it into a pot. So any tonic I can give it. There absolutely is, Joe. This is where sea salt really comes into its own. Prune away the dead branches. Prune them back to wherever there is some green. Pull away some of the dead leaves. They're going to fall off anyway. pull them away, give it a really good dose of sea salt, and then follow it in about 5 days' time with power feed. Now, the liquid power feed is the one that I would be recommending. And don't be scared to hose it over the top of the plant and let it soak into the soil. Leave it for 2 weeks and give it another hit with sea salt, and then about 5 days later, another hit with power feed. You should see a turnaround. You should see it actually start to improve quite dramatically from that point. So hopefully that helps. Annie Michelatis, hello Annie. Where can we get the Brazilian cherry in Perth? All right, you'll find actually it's usually in most garden centres. I would expect Waldex, Dawson's, specialists like Tas1 Trees definitely have it. So that might help you over here in the West. Nationally, really good garden centres, Flower Power in Sydney, I'd expect they have it. Garden World in Victoria, I'm sure that I've seen it there before. It will be in their tropical fruit section though, so not in their traditional summer fruit section, just so you know. Gabby Aline, I hope I've got that right. You're in Rosebud in Victoria, Gabby. My magnolia tree is in a pot, the leaves are falling off, turning yellow. What can I do? This is your magnolia tree saying it's running out of moisture. And when it stresses, the first thing it'll do is start dropping some leaves. So they turn yellow, drop off. You probably need to repot it, is my suggestion to you. If you can't repot it, give it a light trim back, take it out, trim off some of the roots, put it in some new fresh potting mix in the same pot, and then soak it with sea salt. It's going to get a little bit of stress, but then it'll recover. As soon as those new roots will start to spring away, the first thing that will happen is it'll start producing lots of new foliage. And at that point, you need to be feeding it, and a controlled release fertilizer is a good way to go. Hopefully that helps. Gabby. All right, we are coming back to the West. We're moving all over the country this morning. Where are we? We'll go to Beth in Pinjarra. Hello. Can you recommend some native flowering trees to attract bees to my veggie garden on my veranda? I've killed a lot of them, so one that is hard to kill would be great. Thank you. Okay, that's an interesting statement that you've killed a lot of them. I'm not really sure why that would be. Is your soil challenging? Are you finding it's drying out? Do you not have a good water supply? Is that what's affecting them? Because other than that, fruit trees are pretty easy to grow. And native flowering plants, why don't you think about putting some bottle brush in around the outside? They'll bring the bees in mass volumes about this time of the year, and certainly through the flowering period for most of the flowering vegetables. If you want things to attract some bees in right at the moment, borage. You can plant new fresh patches of borage. The blue flowers bring bees in from miles away. I have sunflowers, little dwarf sunflowers, planted around the base of all of my tomato plants at the moment to bring bees in so that they can get in and pollinate those flowers. And yeah, that's the best advice I can give you. Graham New, going all the way back east and going north to Queensland. Hello, Graham. Thanks for joining us. My lawn's gone patchy in the hot weather. Been watering it consistently. What else can I do? Now is the time to be applying a wetting agent, Graham. It's almost certainly patches. When you start to see them like that, it's generally because you are starting to get drying because you're getting moisture disparity in the soil. So soil moisture consistency is the key. And what you're probably finding is you're starting to dry off in patches. So by making sure that water can evenly penetrate into the soil, at least you're making sure that all the water you apply is getting down to the roots where it needs to be. But if there are dry pockets in there, that's when you'll start to see patches occurring. And I suspect that that's exactly what you've got. Susie Cape, you're in Perth. My kangaroo paws have turned crisp. I think they're dying. How can I save them? It'll be water. It'll only be water. That's the key at the moment. If you're saying they've turned crisp and it's just the flowers, then that's a different story. The flowers should be finishing about now, the first flushes. And what we do is we continuously keep cutting those flowers off the stems right down near the base of the plant. That encourages it to produce more shoots. And I think that that's what you should be doing. Maybe if you're finding that it's drying out, some wetting agent, some mulch about now, but not up against the stem or the base of the kangaroo paw plants. It'll cause rot. Whew, it's a lot of information there, isn't there? Sorry, Susie. Hopefully that helps. Jay Pacharada, I hope I got it right. Southern River. Cockroaches in my garden everywhere. can't get rid of them. That's a really unusual thing. Again, David Gray's cricket and grasshopper baits will do those cockroaches a lot of harm. It's unusual. They're generally in that environment, they're getting food. So I'm assuming that there's a lot of organic matter and they're taking that. But yeah, control it by using brand baits and you'll be fine. And that's what David Gray's cricket and grasshopper killer is. I tend to be recommending that a lot recently. It's quite interesting. Okay, Shay Lee. Right, I think I know who Shay Lee is. I've got some old-fashioned roses that my nana adores. Propagated the roses before with a bit of success, but when should I do this? And do you have any tips? Certainly, roses are best grown from cutting during the latter part of the growing season. So when you're still getting growth, do it sort of, I'm going to say May probably. April, May is ideal in the Perth area, but it's basically about a month or two before we move into dormancy, which is typically sort of June, July, probably in the West and fairly typically everywhere else as well. The other time to do it is at the end of winter. So just before you start to get the new growth coming through, you go through and you take your cuttings then, but you only do it from semi-hardwood and your cuttings need to be about that long, if that makes sense. So flat base, 45-degree angle with a bud coming out that way. Use some semi-hardwood or hardwood plant hormone powder or rooting gel. You take that, you pop them into containers, ideally with controlled humidity. I'm trying to think of the right way to explain that. But if you're going to put them into a little greenhouse, one of those little propagation houses, they'll do pretty well. And they will grow off their own roots and do quite well once they get established. So hopefully that helps. Shay, let's go back to Brisbane, southeast Queensland. The landscaper planted a bay tree. It's been in 3 years. I'd like to uplift and pot it as our backyard is small. Would the root ball be deep and wide? Will it be possible? Yes, they do transplant. Is now the best time to do it? Not probably a good idea at the moment, Barbara, unless you can really keep the moisture up. It's really important. It's a really big thing. You've got to be very careful. They don't like that extreme stress. But if you've got really good irrigation or you're going to be hand watering every single day, it will come up. Do they have a big root ball? Depends on how big the plant is. If the plant's bigger than 6 foot tall, you're going to have quite a significant root ball and it'll need to be in a large tub, probably almost a half wine barrel if you want to get best results. Grow them in really good potting mix. Make sure you're using the very best. It's the best investment you'll ever make. And it should do okay, but I would wait until we've got through the real heat and you're starting to get some decent sort of rainfall and then do it. That's my advice. Barbara in southeast Brisbane. Okay, let's keep going. Hayley McKinnon, I got the last bit of what you said, put at the base of tomatoes to attract bees. What was it again? Borage. Borage, it's a herb and it's got beautiful blue flowers and you can pick the flowers off, put them in salads. It's really good for you. But yeah, my recommendation is you stay there and try that. That'll do the pollination thing by bringing bees in. Yasma Hugh, you are in Tassie. Hello. Okay, I've got coriander that's gone to seed. How do I collect the seed? Is it in the flower bud ball? That's exactly what's sitting inside there, Yasma. Yeah, so collect them. You can either regrow them or you can use the seed as well by crushing it. That's always a good way to go. You can't go wrong in that space. And what you are finding is what you're going to find with coriander at the moment is this issue where it starts to run. It starts to grow really, really fast and you're not getting enough foliage, I suppose. And it'll go to seed as Yasma has now sort of described. You can sort of take the roots and you can take the seed at this point, but the foliage is pretty much useless. I would look at slow bolt coriander if you want to grow it now. Coriander is a cooler climate herb, not a warmer climate herb. So if you're in cooler conditions or you can grow it in a cooler condition, perfect. But during the summer, it is going to grow fast. There is a variety, the Renaissance group sell it, and it is a variety that does grow slower and more compact, allowing you to benefit from getting the foliage. I will, in the next 2 weeks, I think, go through, harvest pretty much all of my coriander And what we'll do is pop it in with some olive oil and I'll pop it in some jars and keep it in the fridge and just use it through the summer months. But I won't grow any more coriander until such a time that I'm ready to get into some cooler conditions, and I'll plant the seed and it'll establish really well. Hopefully that helps you, Yasma. Mark Skizzy, I hope I got that right, Mark. You're in Mudgee in New South Wales. Say good day to my mate Scotty Cam, who's probably not far away from you. Can I plant my garden iris into my fish frog pond? Well, I can't see why not. Garden iris tends to prefer growing in soil. I should just tell you that straight up front. There is, of course, the Louisiana irises that can handle moisture a lot better. And then there's the water irises that even do better than that. If it's the general flag iris or the more compact soil ones, then no. I would suggest you don't, unless you're just going to put it on the edge of the pond, where it will enjoy the moisture, but it won't be absolutely saturated. It's a really interesting thing. You know, it's a really good idea at the moment to have create areas where you can hold some water, because frogs and tadpoles are really active right at the moment. Of course, water is drying up, so giving them a place to actually lay their eggs and for the tadpoles to hatch and to turn into frogs is a really good idea. Well, we've had a really good show today. We've belted through a lot of questions in a short period of time, and we've had a lot of you viewing. There's big numbers tuned in today. Thank you so much for that. What we are going to do is we're going to wind up, but we're going to wind up with our question of the day, which I left that responsibility to Shaylee to come up with. And who's our question of the day?
Well, Yan Nguyen guessed that plant correctly.
Yeah, Yan Nguyen. That was really good. Really, really good. That was our plant of the week that we talked about. Of course, this one here, Gruma Charma, the Brazilian cherry. You can see them. As I am looking at them, my mouth is watering. They are delicious. I don't care what Shaylee says. It's one of those things. Maybe it's an acquired taste or something, but once you get used to them, you really can't help yourself. You do want to eat a lot of them, and you can do that. Big seed in it, unfortunately, but the flesh that you get is absolutely delicious. So, Yen, you just got yourself a $50 gift voucher from our friends at Garden Express. We will be emailing that through to you, and that'll allow you to sit down, cruise the Garden Express website, pick out your favorite things, hit the buy button and put in your details, and they'll send it direct to your door. And as I always say, it's a super cool website to traverse, because you can shop 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and never have a problem. How good's that? I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, please hit the like button. It shares it with your friends and it builds our audiences, and that's good for us and good for you, because it keeps us coming back. We have, I think, 2 shows left. Am I right, Shay? 1 show left. Next week is our last show, and I'll be coming to you from Sydney, where I will be over there doing a little bit of work before I head to Melbourne to continue filming. And I'm really looking forward to answering your questions there. Hopefully you are able to avoid the very hot weather, and hopefully your gardens are looking fantastic. Thank you so much. Warren Yee, thanks so much for supporting us in watching the Singapore program as well. We really do appreciate it. If you want to know anything more from today's show, simply, well, what we do is, of course, put it up on Facebook so you can watch it again, or alternatively, go to our website. It's a great resource, thegardengurus.tv. If you want to watch stories or television programs, go to our YouTube channel as well. There's so much. Every week there's a whole bunch of you, Jeff and Rita Mapstone, Irene Fraser, Christine Rankin, goes on and on and on, where you just support us, and we love answering your questions, and we really appreciate your support. We're looking forward to doing it one more time for the spring season. Trevor Cochran. Look forward to seeing you next week, next Friday, for the Garden Gurus Live.